Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is the week in Nerdom for the first half of the week. Today is June 11th. We are jumping right into the news, but first we have an intro that we have to hit real quick. No real channel updates. Starting off today's episode, we're just going to jump right into the news because there's a lot to talk about, so we need to jump in and get it all through real quick. So we're starting off with music like we do, and the first thing we're talking about in music is a new track from UnEarth. If you're new to the channel, UnEarth is probably one of my favorite metalcore bands, and they just put out a new record last November, and this is another track off of that record. The video is a live performance video, so that's kind of whatever, but the track itself is not one of their better ones, I'm not gonna lie, but it is still worth a listen just because, again, UnEarth is probably one of the best metalcore bands that kind of really waves that banner real hard. Link in the description. The name of the song is Incinerate. Again, it is off of their Exterminations record that came out in November. Go check it out. Let's talk about what you feel about the song and or music video down in the comments section. Then we're moving over to some Static X news updates. We talked before, it was a while ago, I think it was like more than 2 months ago even, about the fact that they are doing a reunion tour, kind of, that's really the anniversary tour for the Wisconsin Death Trip album. I believe it's 20 years old, which makes me feel really stinking old. So they're doing, and obviously Wayne Static will not be able to join them because he passed away a few years ago. But they still have this unknown person that's going to be on stage with them. That's not the update, though. That's just kind of bringing you up to speed on where we are. What we talked about previously is their new record that they're going to be putting out, which is going to be utilizing some of the tracks that Wayne Static had recorded but were not released. And originally, the plan was going to be that they were going to bring in some guest vocalists, Burton C. Bell, Ivan Moody, some other genre kind of well-known acts to finish the tracks, because what they had was not complete tracks from Wayne. They just had clips and maybe, I think the count was something like 3 or 5, somewhere in that neighborhood, whole songs that were going to be Wayne, and then everything else was going to be guest vocalists. Al Jourgensen was going to be a guest vocalist as well. Since our last update, they have actually come out and said that they found even more vocal tracks while they were doing their studio work. So now all of those vocalists are going to not be on the record except for Al Jourgensen. Al Jourgensen is going to be the only guest vocalist on the record, and it seems like, the way that they're talking about it, it seems like it's just going to be a guest spot like you would in any other genre or even any other band that does guest vocals. It's going to be a guest spot from Jourgensen and not an actual song by Jourgensen. So that'll be really interesting to see what comes of that. Definitely looking forward to anything new from the original lineup of Static X, especially. Again, minus Wayne Static, unfortunately, but things are the way they are. Also, very interested to see what happens with this U.S. tour that they are about to embark on. So as more things come out, if the identity of their substitute vocalist for the tour is revealed, we will definitely be talking about that here, but that's all we have right now for Static X. Now we're going to kick over to our last piece of music news, which is another new track. Kind of. Clutch, we'll not bury the lead. Clutch is putting out new music. Again, not going to be a proper album necessarily, it's just going to be a series of songs that they release. So they put out Book of Bad Decisions the beginning, Wow, that might have no, that was last year. Okay, it was sometime in the middle of last year. It wasn't quite the beginning of last year, but they put out Book of Bad Decisions. It's a great record. You should definitely go check it out. Actually, it might have been the fall. Where I'm not getting stuck on that one spot. They went on tour. They supported the record, and they got back from tour at the beginning of this year and went, you know what? Instead of just twiddling our thumbs for a few months and waiting to go back out on tour, let's record some more music. And they're calling these sessions the Weathermaker Vault Series. Weathermaker being the name of their label, makes total sense. And what we are getting first from these... they're mostly going to be digital releases, according to JP, the drummer. Mostly going to be digital releases, though eventually I'm sure they will collect them on a record because that's what Clutch is wont to do. They always put out really obscure... The obscure materials eventually get released in some way, shape, or form, so we will see a physical release somewhere down the road. They have not completely shut the door on the possibility for that, but... right now, they're just going to be a series of digital releases that are going to get them to the end of the year. What the plans are beyond that, he did not really elaborate, didn't say much. But the first of which we're getting is a track called Evil, which is a Willie Dixon cover. And it's actually really good. I very rarely will think that a Clutch record is not very good. This is no exception. Clutch is one of the greatest, like, blues-infused rock bands, metal bands at points. Definitely worth a listen. Go check that out and come back and let's talk about the song or the video. It's just a lyric video, so nothing crazy impressive there. Or if you've already listened to it, definitely let's talk about it down in the comment section down low. Actually, before we finish the music section, one thing I just heard right before completing today's filming session, apparently the original masters for some of Guns N' Roses and Nirvana's music was destroyed in a fire. As I find out more specific details and exactly where they were and what the fire was, we will definitely talk about that in the later episode this week. I just wanted to bring that up real quick before we signed off, and now we're going to continue on with the rest of the episode. So let's jump right into TV news, because we actually have quite a bit of news to cover, and I don't want to waste any more breath. So first on the list, we have the Dark Tower series. It's going to be finding its way up on Amazon Prime. It seems that the reason we won't be getting Michael Rooker as King Shark is because we are getting Michael Rooker in Dark Tower. He took to his personal website to break the news that he is going to be in the series, though he did not disclose which role he was going to be playing in the series. That's pretty cool, though. The more I hear about the Amazon original stuff that's coming out very soon, the more I'm excited that I already have an Amazon Prime membership. Next on the docket for TV news is an update about the X-Men the Animated Series. And no, you're not flashing back to the 90s. This is a legitimate continuation, potentially, of the animated series that we got back in the 90s. The original team who was in charge of doing that series, they're gearing up to pitch the idea of rebooting or actually continuing the series from back in the day. And a real quick refresher for anyone who hasn't recently watched that series, but it's well past spoiler territory. It ended with a very wounded Professor Xavier going to the Shi'ar Empire with Lilandra to somehow fix his wounds. I believe it was something that was mortally valid, if I'm remembering that correctly, but either way, the potential for a continuation of that original animated series is super exciting. If it happens, they are trying to get it to happen on the Disney Plus streaming app. Next, in continuing great series, this one's not an old series that's getting continued. This one is a series we got last year on Netflix. Well, actually, just a couple of months ago on Netflix. The Love, Death, and Robots series just got picked up for a second season, and this season is going to see Jennifer Yu Nelson at the director's chair in charge of the overall direction of all of the shorts, much like David Fincher did for season 1. So, if you are a fan of science fiction, CGI animation, and or anything in between, then definitely you should be excited about this news as well. Quickie news update, since the series starts tomorrow as you're watching this, if you're watching this on the day it gets up. We just got our final promos for Season 2 of Krypton, which feature Lobo. And again, just a real quick update. They're definitely fun to watch. They're up on YouTube. You can go check them out. And I'm super excited about the second season. Our final update for this episode in TV news is Dune Sisterhood. In order to capitalize on what Warner Brothers foresees as being a very well-received movie, the Denis Villeneuve Dune movie is getting a spin-off series on the forthcoming WB streaming app that has yet to get a release date or any other real hard factual announcements. But we do know that they are planning on doing a Dune series based on the Bene Gesserit, who, if you're unfamiliar with the series, is a collection of strong female characters, a collection of women that kind of sort of run the galaxy in the Dune series. So that's really, really awesome. No specifics as to the content of the series. We do know that Denis Villeneuve is signed on to direct the pilot episode, and again, Denis is the one that is doing the movie. He's not only directing the movie, but he also wrote and is producing the movie. This was a little bit gray. There was a little bit gray area, but it looks like Denis Villeneuve is also going to be an executive producer on the series, so that's also pretty freaking awesome. The content is kind of marred in mystery at this point, though there is a whole book in the Dune series called The Sisterhood of Dune that directly deals with this content, so it's very likely that we're going to see that, though again, nothing has been confirmed officially just yet. Now let's switch gears over to movie news, and the first thing in movie news, if you were super excited about Godzilla King of the Monsters, then you should also know that the next movie they are planning is Godzilla vs. King Kong. Well, Warner Brothers studio chairman Toby Emmerich recently said in an interview that they are aiming for a late 2020 release of the movie, which seems really soon considering how much special effects and such has to go into making these movies. One can't help but think maybe that's a little bit of a rush. But then, right before going to film today, there was another update that it looks like it is going to be postponed a little bit longer, though how much longer was not stated. Our next piece is going to be very divisive amongst the horror movie fans. Rob Zombie just dropped his first official teaser trailer for his newest movie, 3 from Hell. This is the third in the House of a Thousand Corpses trilogy. The Firefly family trilogy, I believe, is what some of the fans are referring to it as. And if you're a fan of Zombie's version of the horror genre, then you should definitely be excited. But again, get ready to take sides, horror fans, because this one looks like it is going to be very, very divisive in the genre. Next is actually an update from MTV News, because apparently that's still a thing. Mindy Kaling sat down for an interview with them, and in this interview, she said that she has been talking with Marvel about the Miss Marvel property. Now, it's still uncertain specifically if it is going to be a movie or a series, though she did mention the possibility for both. All we can say for certain right now is that it is going to happen in some form, at just a matter of when and how still remains to be cemented. And then our last piece of movie news actually comes from Quentin Tarantino. Not the Star Trek update that we're all hoping for. Everyone is waiting with anticipation very, very, very calmly. No, not really. No, it is not the Star Trek update, though we do know that a script does actually exist for the Star Trek movie. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is an adaptation of Quentin Tarantino's comic book. The Dynamite comic book that he did with Matt Wagner, that is the continuation of the Django Unchained story. You know, the one where it's Django and Zorro. Yeah, Tarantino is looking to make this into a movie, according to Collider, where in the comics, Tarantino brought in Matt Wagner to help him flesh out the details of his idea. For the movie, he's going to bring in Jared Carmichael to flesh out the details of how the movie should work. So it doesn't sound like Tarantino's going to be directing the movie if it does actually make it to theaters, but it's still pretty exciting that we're going to get another Quentin Tarantino movie in our lifetimes. Now let's talk about the gaming news, and in gaming news there's a whole lot going on right now because E3 is a thing. So if you have not been watching, I will link down low to some of the press conferences like the Microsoft, the Bethesda, you know, the really good ones, Ubisoft, Square Enix, all of the stuff that's going on. Definitely has been great content to be watched. So if you have not caught up, you owe it to yourself to do so. You can find links to their press conferences down in the description. But going a little bit further into some of the things that they have brought up, one is a follow-up to last week's Banjo-Kazooie leak. It has been confirmed that the leak was correct. Banjo-Kazooie is going to be in Smash Bros. Ultimate. The release date and all that jazz, you can find all the details in the description. Next on the list is Cyberpunk 2077. All kinds of great information has come out now about Cyberpunk 2077, not the least of which being that Keanu Reeves is going to not only be a character, but a main character in the game, so that's kind of freaking awesome. We saw Keanu Reeves on stage introducing the release date, which is April of next year, which is not too far away, just around 10 months, somewhere around there. So that's pretty freaking awesome. But the bit of news that I felt like we should talk about is, if you remember, or if you have yet to watch it, again, links in the description, but go watch it, and then you'll see someone calls Keanu Reeves breathtaking, because Keanu Reeves says the game is actually quite breathtaking, and the guy in the audience shouts out, "You're breathtaking!" To which Keanu Reeves says, "No, you're breathtaking." Well, that guy out in the audience apparently is getting a free collector's edition copy of the game because he called Keanu Reeves breathtaking. I just think that's really cool. I'm sure the kid is excited about it. I would be too. It's just a funny thing. So if you go to E3, apparently feel free to shout stuff out, because then you'll get free stuff. I guess that's the precedent they're setting anyway. Next bit of gaming news is a little bit of a deeper dive into Xbox Project Scarlet. Again, during the Microsoft press conference, we got some information about their next generation console, which is still called Project Scarlet. Well, more information than what they gave us. They kind of alluded to this on stage, but it didn't really go into details. It seems that Project Scarlet is going to be backward compatible, not just with Xbox One, but all the way back to the original Xbox. Now, this is not exactly confirmed. This is still kind of a rumor, but if it comes out to be true, that's pretty freaking awesome. You can finally get rid of your original Xbox, because that backward compatibility nonsense between the original Xbox and the Xbox 360 was such a hot mess that maybe now they've figured it out and they've ironed out whatever legal issues they have. I've wanted this for 3 generations now, actually. But then our last bit of news has to do with Fallout 76. This one comes from the Bethesda press conference. It seems that Fallout 76 has finally become the game, or is about to finally become the game that we all originally wanted anyway. Save for maybe the necessitating the online stuff. We're getting NPCs. We're actually getting a Battle Royale mode. And the interesting part about that, because yeah, everybody's got Battle Royale now. Even Halo Infinite is going to have a Battle Royale mode. But the Battle Royale mode in Fallout 76 gets you actual stuff for the main game. So you're going to get perk cards, you're going to get abilities, you're going to get monies, the caps is more appropriate. You're going to get all kinds of really awesome stuff. They didn't go into any more specifics beyond that, but I'm sure as the Battle Royale progresses and gets bigger and more popular, then they'll have bigger prizes for winning rounds in Battle Royale. And if you win consecutive rounds and things like that, they're, again, not really said it as such, but that seems to make the most sense for how they're building it up. So, all of that being said, where do you stand on the current state of Fallout 76, and how do you feel about these updates that they have announced? Also, are you going to do the free 7-day trial? Because again, they've kind of updated everything as far as they can, as with all of the bugs and everything like that, until we get these new game updates, all of which are going to be free. The Battle Royale mode, the NPC expansion, all of these expansion stuff that they're releasing for basically every Bethesda game for the year is going to be free. They have online... Oh man, so much is going on. So how do you feel about that? Let's talk about that in the comments down low. I know I am kind of excited again about Fallout. And then our last section for this update is comic books. Yes, we actually have comic book news again today. And this update for comic books is kind of a follow-up to the House of X and Powers of 10, I believe is how you're supposed to say it, even though it's written as X. It's a follow-up to when we announced that was going to be happening. Now it seems that the books have yet to actually come out. We are still waiting on issue number 1, but we know that on the cover of issue 5 for both series shows the return of a few villains we haven't seen for a while. On the cover of House of X, we see the return of Apocalypse, who has been stuck in the Age of X-Men universe for a little while at this point. And then on the cover of Powers of 10, again, maybe it's Powers of X, I can't remember. But on that cover, we see the return of Mr. Sinister, who was Mrs. Sinister for a while, and reasons and things, he's just been gone for a little bit. But it seems that we're going to be seeing the return of both of these major X-Men villains. To what extent, we can only conjecture. So let's do that down in the comments. What do you guys think is going to be the circumstance through which both of these major villains are returning to the X-Men universe? Let's have that conversation down low, because I'm super excited. I might actually start reading Marvel again. Go figure. But that, guys, is the end of today's episode. What did I miss? What should we talk about at the end of the week? Let me know in the comments down low. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That's where you can find all of the freebies and all of the links to all of the other things like the social medias or the Patreon. Or you can go straight to Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy, in order to support the channel more directly that way. Again, patreon.com/generallynerdy. There is bonus content on the Patreon just for patrons, so go check that out. If you are new to the channel, click the subscribe button. If you like this episode, click the like button, or if you didn't like it, there's a thing there that you can click for that as well. But if you're falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up, you can click or tap that box right there to the left of my face to do that. Before you click that box, though, before you go to the website, do any of this other stuff, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.